Good morning, and thank you for joining INSA's Coffee and Conversation featuring Mark Andress. Before we begin, we'd like to share a video from today's sponsor, Leidos. Now please welcome INSA Executive Vice President, John Doyon.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us for another year of Coffee and Conversation. This morning, we're pleased to welcome one of our community's top leaders to the program. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping notes. If you have questions, and we hope that you do, please submit them through the Q&A box on the right side of your screen. We'll do our best to get to all of the questions submitted. Also, we're pleased to welcome members of the press to the call today. And this is a reminder that this program is on the record. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Jason O'Connor, Senior Vice President responsible for Leidos program execution at NGA, NRO, DIA, and ODNI. And Jason will introduce our speaker. Jason, over to you.
All right, thank you, John, and good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. And thank you to INSA for hosting this morning's conversation. They've done an incredible job hosting programs like today's that help keep us engaged with the issues and connected to the broader IC community. At Leidos, we're extremely proud of our work for NGA, providing, maintaining, and modernizing mission software and IT systems. We leverage insights acquired through hundreds of prime contracts across the IC and our core competencies in software modernization and GEOINT tradecraft to further NGA's important national security mission. Now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker. Mark Andress serves as NGA's Chief Information Officer and Director, IT Services, where he oversees all development, governance, management, and innovation related to NGA's information technology infrastructure, systems and services, data libraries, and cybersecurity. Named to this position in March of 2019, Mark leads a combined civilian, contractor, military workforce of approximately 7,000 across multiple NGA mission locations. He came to NGA after nearly 3 decades in the US Navy, serving in both civilian and active duty capacities, most recently as the Assistant Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Information Warfare. As both a user and provider of IT services to the military, he contributes critical insight into the needs and challenges of warfighters, including those on the tactical edge. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Jason. And I'd also like to extend my greetings to you, Mark. And so glad you can join us here today on the program. And let's jump right into it and get started with the conversation. I had a question for you to start off with, and that is recalling something that PDD and I, Stacy Dixon, said last March. I think she was still at NGA at the time. And she commented that the US is in a great power competition and that NGA is being challenged to provide faster and better products and services. Can you tell us a little bit more about this and how NGA is approaching this challenge?
Hey, sure. But first, like the rest of you, Happy New Year. Jason, for you and Leidos for sponsoring this event, and to INSA for the invitation to come talk about GEOINT. We've had a great relationship with INSA over the years, and so I'm really excited to be here. So thank you all. I couldn't agree more with Dr. Dixon's assertions from last year. We're clearly in a race. This level of competition demands speed, and I think there's a few aspects to this race that are the most significant drivers for the GEOINT world. And it begins with our adversaries. This set of adversaries in this competition space, they're smarter, they're bolder, they're more creative. and they are able to leverage many of the same technologies that we use. That gap, that technical advantage that we enjoyed through the Cold War and certainly the 90s has shrunk. And in many ways, they're able to apply more human capital, more human resources, just flat out bulk human capacity in things like labeling AI data. So there's a real sense of urgency to what we're trying to do. The second driver for us is really what we've been learning through this pandemic. And it's changed kind of the time-honored ways in which we work. We just shift from purely classified administration, production, intelligence products to a hybrid model. And all of that is really creating tremendous opportunity as we think about the full leverage of the unclassified environment. The third and fourth are kind of related. The third is really this explosion that we're going to see this decade in GEOINT data. You're already seeing it today in the lower cost and barriers to entry in space, particularly LEO. And that is reflected by both the growth we're seeing in this decade in national systems, in commercial, with our foreign partners who we value dearly. And again, from our adversaries, they're not slowing down either. And the last one related to this and how to manage that data for us is the potential for AI and ML technologies to change how we work. And I know there's a lot of buzz around AI and ML, but for NGA in particular, we know that we have to become the world's best in computer vision. That using the computer to substitute for what the human eyes and mind have been able to do in the past is kind of our way forward through these challenges we face.
Great. Hey, there's a lot there, and I know we'll get into some of the details as we continue our talk. But I wanted to also touch on something that a number of us have heard about, especially over the last year, and that's Admiral Sharp, the director of NGA, talking about his Moonshot strategy. It was launched last year. Can you tell us how that helps you address some of the challenges you just listed off?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking that. So looking at all this and understanding that need to really change, using a naval analogy, to really throw the rudder over and change the course that we had been on and had been excellent at through the whole counterterrorism, past couple of decades. He took what was a term inspired by President Kennedy's moonshot analogy in 1962 that called for America to land a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And for us, he established his moonshot, his director's intent, and it is that by the end of this decade, a decade with this massive explosion in data coupled with the opportunities of technology, he wants the U.S. and its allies to be in a position to hold strategic forces of our adversaries at risk 24/7, 7 days. I use the analogy of the unblinking eye, that we will see and observe everything that our adversaries are trying to do to outmaneuver us and give them strategic advantage. And he broke those into 4 major thrusts, which he calls his mission imperatives. And just real quickly to go through them, because they're kind of driving all of the technology that we're trying to deliver, and it's where our resources are going. So John, if I could, I'd like to hit on those 4 real quick.
Sure.
Yep. So the first is assured position navigation, timing, and targeting. A lot of times NGA we're thought of as the imagery exploitation experts, and we are, but we're also the product of the convergence of multiple agencies with an extensive geodetic sciences and mapping background. So if you think about great power competition, all that we've enjoyed in the past, imagine that being contested from GPS, coordinates, to the whole competition in space and space reference frame. So it's a huge area to assure those things that we assume for granted. The second was accelerated tasking orchestration. Like I said, explosion of data. It's on us to optimize globally how the assets that are available, unclassified, commercial, foreign, national, are optimized against a global target set. The next is data access and integrity, which is not just about ensuring that the data we obtain and deliver is secure from a cybersecurity perspective, but the integrity of the data. In a world where the exploitation of imagery, the manipulation of imagery and deep fakes, computer-driven manipulation of data is huge. So we have an obligation to ensure that integrity. And lastly, just kind of getting at the way the analysts work. We've got to change, we've got to flip the equation in a flat manpower environment so that our analysts can focus on the right thing. So modernizing the analyst workflow is the fourth piece. So those are his 4 pillars. That's his moonshot. And if I gave you one thing, it's all about shortening the timeline it takes to do all of them. Speed is really the big driver.
Okay. Well, within that framework of the pillars and the moonshot, here we are at the start of 2022. Can you tell us about some of your current key priorities for the coming year?
Sure. As the CIO at NGA, I really do have a great job. They've entrusted my team with an enormous scope. So we've got the management of enterprise IT, so from the desktop to the compute and storage. We've got the management and operations and modernization of mission IT. So think of all those tools, the algorithms, all of the work around how they do work. We also run the major systems acquisitions. So think of this as the big partnerships we might have with NRO, with DoD, and foreign partners to bring in new sensors, integrate those, and deploy them. And then we've got all of cybersecurity and technology planning. So it's a really big job, and but it's truly an amazing team that takes this on. Up against that, I talked a little bit about the background of NGA and how it's a merger of multiple agencies over time. And so one of the major focuses this year is how do we posture the agency in an era of speed against this backdrop of multiple hundreds of legacy system by systems approaches that have just been brought together over time. So that's going to be one of our big challenges, not just for this year, but for several years. And it was pretty neat over the last 2 years, which we focused a lot on how are we going to look at that? What's the strategy around how we'll approach that challenge? So we put out 3 major documents. I'm not going to go into them. They're on our website, nga.mil, and I encourage you to look at them. But it was our tech focus areas. In other words, what technology do we need? Our tech strategy, which was how do we want to go about it? And then our data strategy. What do we got to change from data governance, from data management, from data infrastructure? So those 3 have been the pillars of kind of how we're going to approach this problem. I'm going to pause a minute, John. I'd love to be able to go into kind of, with that as a backdrop, some of the more specific implementation priorities we have, if that'll work.
Okay. Yeah. Go right ahead. Let's hear about them.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, we've taken the time to really think about how to approach this, and we've laid out those strategies. So for us in CIOT, for 2022 and probably most of 2023, our big priorities are going to begin with cybersecurity. Cybersecurity on all domains and within our cross domains. I don't think that's a shocker to anyone in the world we're living in today. Current ops, support to combat operations. We see what's happening in the Ukraine. Tied with that, safety and navigation. So we have this mission that ensures that our ships, our troops, our everything is safe as they transit the world. So those 2 are just like they will consume what we do from a current ops perspective. On the modernization front, we've really got 4 or 5 big things we're trying to do. I talked about our many disparate systems and how we need to pivot our architecture. So this year we're rolling out our service-centric platform, our common operating environment. So that's going to be a big event for us. We're modernizing our global compute and storage infrastructure. We're going from C2S to C2E, and so that presents huge opportunities. We're starting the build out of a brand new building in St. Louis called NextNGA West. And so the finalization of the design, the rollout of the initial cabling, the WAN, all those types of things are happening, which is huge. And then, as I've talked about, huge priority for us in CIoT, it's really making sure that we are laying out the IT infrastructure to support this integration of AI and ML.
Great. Hey, let's lots to unpack there. Let's talk a little bit about the AI ML. So if you go back, you're talking about, of course, you're in charge of mission IT, and with the big data challenges we have and the data analytics, where do you look for the data analytics that NGA needs? Are you looking to industry or looking to partners? And as far as implementing AI ML as part of your overall way to handle the big data challenges, where are you having some success?
Great. Yeah, so I think let me start with on the machine learning front and what we've been doing and where we've been having some success. I would say that we've had pretty good success over the last couple of years in 2 aspects of that. It's been the natural language text processing piece. In other words, we have so many, we're the global hub of GEOINT, and the ability to process so many inputs and vet those and get those out, that's been a big help for us and eliminated countless man hours in helping to go through the data, prioritize it, have the algorithms continuously improve. So that's been a big boon. And the second one I talked to earlier, and which will be consuming us for the next decade, is computer vision. We need the computers to see and do more of the human process. If you think about that, for us, it's obviously the imagery piece that it is our bread and butter. And the detection of objects of interest, equipment, facilities, patterns of behavior, movement of objects. These are things that have been inherently human-driven. And so, this big goal in the near term is to take those, I'm not going to say mundane because they require skill, but transfer those fundamental skills to the machine, and then let the analyst shift to what does that mean? What does it mean that that movement is happening? I think there are, looking at NGA as in this role as the functional manager for GEOINT, in other words, managing this entire community. There's a ton of different aspects of that we've got to get better at. I talked about how do you manage a global constellation and prioritize what targets we hit. Well, we're going to have to manage the output and the prioritization of algorithms so that we are optimizing our level of effort globally with the DoD, with the rest of the IC. So that's a management challenge. We've got to think about standards. This is a brave new world, and we have a central role for GEOINT standards. And so GeoAI standards development is a huge subset, an enabler of all that needs to happen. And then probably the biggest thing is if you look at the thousands of photogrammetrists and geospatial analysts that we have, transferring that knowledge, improving the model, improving the object classes against multiple targets is going to be, it's really going to be where we've got to change the nature of our work.
Great. Hey, first I'd like to remind the audience, please do submit questions if you have them using the tool on the right side of your screen, and we will try to get to some of those. And some of the questions, Mark, that are coming in are pertaining to some of the things you're talking about. And so one thing I wanted to loop back to was your emphasis on cybersecurity, which I think was at the top of your list. And so we're getting some questions regarding zero trust, and specifically, we have Todd Baer from Trend Micro, and also Mark Sincevich from Illumio asking about, what is your zero trust model or matrix? And then how are you, more broadly, how are you implementing zero trust? And are you adopting the NSA CyberCon zero trust approaches? Can you talk a little bit more about where you are with the zero trust piece?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Starting out, yes, we are adopting the DoD reference frame for zero trust. It's a great model. For us as an agency, we've been talking a lot about what does that mean for us, and I would say that a lot of the building blocks of zero trust we already have in place. We have such a robust relationship, as a combat support agency on NIPR and SIPR, and the partnership with Joint Force Headquarters Doyon, and we inherit so much from a network defense standpoint already. We've got a robust identity and access management framework tied to our individual systems. And we've got just, kind of, if I took each of the fundamental building blocks at an individual system level, I would say we're in an excellent starting position for implementing zero trust. Where we have got a lot of work to do, and I know this is going to take a lot of time, is really getting at that relationship in zero trust between an individual and a data element, and how you scale that at the enterprise level. Trust no one for any piece of knowledge unless that connection has been validated. So that's going to be where we focus a lot. In the near term, we're taking on some reinvigoration of just some basic blocking and tackling. Again, patch rates, got a big emphasis on patch rates, got a big emphasis on fundamental technology modernization for systems, right? Obsolete equipment, some of that to do. But the other one is really about data integration. So without having to deploy more sensors, we've got a team focusing, and we're doing some work with DISA and with the JAIC on data aggregation and getting more out of the sensors and data and knowledge that we have today. So, I hope that gets at some of the questions. I can do follow-ons later, but we're definitely following the pattern set forth. We're developing a maturing model built on that pattern, and ahead in some areas I think we can move out on.
Okay, picking up on what you were saying about getting to the data, there's a data analytics question here, and it's from Teresa Hitchens, who's over at Breaking Defense. And she asked, can you talk about plans for integration and vetting of commercial analytics in NGA's overall IT posture?
Yes. Yeah, I'll talk about it. There's two aspects of it. There's my role in this is on creating an infrastructure and an architecture that can more rapidly turn on, turn off, take a new vetted commercial solution and expose that to our analysts, our source operators, or whoever. So I'll put that aside just a minute, and happy to follow up on that. The other part of it is really about what are the new commercial opportunities out there. And I would steer you towards Dave Gauthier and the recent Commercial GEOINT strategy that they just put out. That is really a great starting point. And but really, when you think about these commercial solutions, it's going well beyond what we traditionally think of as imagery or pixels that are out there, and kind of climbing up the knowledge stack. NGA is very interested in every higher order product that can come from that, be that object detections as a thing, or macroeconomic products, or pure analytic products. So the entire range of commercial data and services is on the table. Dave and his team have put together a methodology that they have. It's out there, and again, I'm not going to step through it, but they have got. I was chatting with them, before the holidays. They have got several hundred companies already in dialogue and conversation with them at the early stage. Think of an early adopter and how do I establish a formal relationship with you, all the way up to those that are in operations. We definitely see this as a growing area, and again, I got to create an architecture that can manage that.
Okay, well, that makes me think on the topic of building relationships within NGA from industry. We do have a question from Yolanda Craig, and she makes reference that NRO has a director's initiative. What does NGA have? What's the best way for industry to start to work with NGA?
Sure. Well, I mean, as we kick this off, his moonshot and his director's intent is really, if you just want to know where his head is and what his priorities are, and I'm telling you where the resources were entrusted, how we are reshaping those in the priority, it's in those 4 areas. And so any decision, any priority on the budget, on year of execution, it fits in those categories. If you look inside that on how to do business with NGA, we have a fantastic organization, and it's on the website. There's an email you can go to on industry engagement, and whatever your thing is, start with that, and that is our nexus for getting in touch with Dave Gauthier on a commercial solution. If you are a research group wanting to set up some kind of CRADA with us, easy to do through that mechanism as well. In addition to our multiple RFIs and RFPs that many of those that are already in the national security defense industrial base already know how to leverage. But I don't know, Yolanda, is that getting at the question?
I don't know. Hopefully, if she can send in a follow-up if it didn't. So okay. Let me move on to another question we have. And this one gets back to a cybersecurity related question. It's in from Tony Frazier with Maxar, who asked, can you speak to how GEOINT assurance will be implemented as you leverage increased commercial sources for sensitive mission imperatives like assured precision navigation, timing and targeting?
Okay, well, good morning, Tony. It's great to hear from you, and Happy New Year. Yeah, this is a great topic, and I alluded to this in the mission imperative on data access and integrity when talking about deep fakes and manipulation of imagery. So we have got several partnerships underway, a lot of those inside the IC and with DoD on a couple of aspects of this. One is a no kidding methodology algorithms to vet imagery products. And we do that obviously in partnership with NRO, who manages much of our commercial, space-based commercial data integration. So we have a fantastic technology sharing agreement with the NRO and some research labs out there that are building kind of the screening, if you will, for sources of data. The second one, and equally important, is an emphasis on data standards. So that's a no-brainer in the cybersecurity community world. Data standards, reporting, all that type of stuff in the imagery world, it is equally important, not just from the aspect of cybersecurity and quality, but also if I talk about speed and I talk about this architecture we got to create, we're literally pivoting across the board from system by system, sensor by sensor, to an enterprise operating system and sensor agnostic data ingest, storage, and dissemination. So we've got a renewed, robust emphasis. And by the way, we are doing this in partnership with industry at multiple levels because we don't have all the information. And we really do see this as a collaborative new space. Not a new space, but an area of big emphasis. Making sure that the standards that get us towards sensor agnostic data access will be a huge force multiplier.
Thanks. Back to something you've mentioned about deep fakes and manipulation of images. There's a question from Wendy Dunova-Vimmer who asked, in today's world of myths and disinformation, what is NGA's approach to protecting its data images, including video and data that I guess you make publicly available?
Yeah, so I would expand that. I think NGA has a couple of different roles. I kind of just walk through on the technology front the significant vetting we do before we even accept an image and put our stamp on it. And I have an entire engineering team that is in charge of certifying the accuracy, the validity of any of those products, and the metadata around them, the tagging, the preservation of the, let's say it's foreign partner data, and we have a multilateral, bilateral agreement around that, and it could be governed by land masses or territorial boundaries that say you can share this, that, or the other. Very robust in terms of ensuring that the data that we have is of high quality, is what it is, and is only shared with those that are allowed to see it. So huge aspect there. On the analytic front, and I go back to this, the value and benefit of unclassified information, our analysts also are there to dispute and resolve when false information is published in the national security space, and be able to say, no, that's true, or that is not true. And so those unclassified products are hugely valuable across the entire diplomatic, economic aspects of great power competition. And so it's not just the technology, I would say it's the expertise of what NGA brings in this area.
Great, thanks. Hey, we have another questions come in. This one's from Justin Doubleday with Federal News Network. And he asked, can you discuss any major opportunities that your office is developing this year, including the new Commercial GEOINT Access portal, and how these opportunities fit into some of the broad strategic directives you've been discussing?
Sure. I'm just trying to think about what I would add to what I already said on the commercial side. So one of the big things we're trying to do, and I'll get a little geeky, but maybe this will help get at the question. Traditionally, we've developed a lot of capabilities around tasking and orchestration of sensors. And if you think about that pyramid of knowledge I talked about, from pixels to an analytic product, from commercial to foreign to open, We're putting a lot of emphasis in what we're calling the Supplier Matrix, and that is around how do we leverage technology to pair the knowledge needed, to match the right request from the right customer at the right security domain with the right solution, right? And so you can imagine, when you're dealing in pixels and tasking those types of things, you get really good. Now I'm matching multiple types of knowledge and sourcing, and so we see that as a clear functional role we have, and a huge opportunity on how to harness and manage this explosion of other than pixel information. So that's going to be a big focus for us this year. I don't know if that gets at the question, but hope it does.
Okay, thanks. Hey, let's talk a little bit about something you mentioned closer to the top of the show about NGA West and what you're doing out in St. Louis. So we know that there's this high-tech facility is being built, and a key part of that is the modern IT infrastructure. Can you tell us a little bit more about the vision that you have for this new campus, and also how can industry get involved?
Sure. So I like to think of NextNGA West as the first greenfield post-COVID intelligence community facility designed and conceived prior to COVID, with post-COVID goals in mind. It's unbelievable how the people that came before us were thinking about the future of intelligence production. And so the vision for this facility and how it's been designed from a security perspective and an enablement perspective from the ground up is about the ability to accommodate both traditional intelligence gathering and analysis. Think of top secret, FCI, secret, but enabling that with in the same facility or networked in and out of that facility with a purely unclassified production environment. And that is what has been a huge security goal, and which we're being able to achieve. So the idea, and think of the empowerment with that. Think of the ability to rapidly attract the right workforce. Having the ability to find the right person and have them start working in an unclassified environment on intelligence production, on software development, and being able to harness that knowledge and energy while they're getting vetted, being able to work with different academia or purely unclassified companies that that they may not ever get they may never make that business decision to invest in TSSCI cleared SCIF facilities. Why would we not want to harness that? So if you think about what that vision, that really underpins everything we're doing in that design. So the big technical elements of that obviously are, like I said, a certified SCIF that is roughly 50% full-time SCIF, 25% unclass, and then it'll be designed such that 25% will be able to accommodate a changing world environment that we don't anticipate. If unclass grows, we'll be able to pivot that way. If more TS grows, we'll be able to go that way. We're also taking on a lot of work on making the facility wireless, on thinking about the future of wireless and what that technology does, and on the relationship to cloud computing and the desktop. So going from thick to thin to zero client. So yeah, it's been a huge opportunity for us on the technology side, but I got to say the vision that they had for it, developed early on, was very prescient, very forward-looking when they did that.
What about your industry partners piece? How can industry help you achieve, what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so we have been looking, we're welcoming solutions in any of the spaces that I've talked about. So connectivity, collaboration, wireless. If you're bringing any of that, thin client, zero client, all of that are the technical areas we're exploring. For those that do have an interest in connecting with our technical team, John, just have them shoot you a note, and I can connect them.
Will do. Hey, you mentioned post-COVID goals. I hope we get to post-COVID pretty soon. But that makes me think, while we're managing through the pandemic here, we have a couple of telework questions. And one is about how is NGA coping with telework? And is there any experimentation with bringing your own approved device? And then also another question, how is NGA adapting to the desire of its employees to work from anywhere?
Hey, great question. And I'm coming to you from my own device in my home today, and I can log right into my unclassified FOUO secure environment and go right to work in an unclassified environment. So we're already there. Where we have not gotten is bringing those devices into our buildings and using those. And I don't know that we're going to pursue that anytime in the near term from a security perspective. But I like to brag on some of the work that got done through COVID. You look at, I talked a lot about AI and ML and the importance of it. When we send this, at one point, I think we were down to 15% occupancy, and we send all this talent and knowledge at home. It was unbelievable. We set up some quick accesses to partnering with DoD's Maven, and and cranked out more than 1 million labeled objects from people's homes, being their home computer. We were working with foreign partners in an unclassified environment. We deployed a secure unclassified production environment for our topographic team so that they can, from their home, update topographic features, and that's only going to expand. So it's been, we had a culture of moving towards the unclass, as I talked about, but COVID was a huge accelerant. And the team really did well, from the analyst to the technologist. Great.
Hey, I think we have time for one more question, and we'll go to a topic a few people have raised, which is Agile DevSecOps. And one is, they're very much related. One is, how is NGA changing its culture to move to a more Agile DevSecOps workflow? And I just lost where the second related one is, but can you talk a little bit about where you are with the adoption of Agile and bringing that into the culture of NGA?
That's a great question, and I love to talk about it. I wish we had more time, but I'll keep it tight. I think there are two big thrusts we've had in this space, and the first was, and it's kind of tied to the tech strategy to define how we wanted to work. We realized we needed to develop a platform that would enable this common operations environment, this ability to have a place where code could be developed, tested at speed, code containers deployed and run, APIs could be established, code could be hosted. So we delivered that piece as kind of, I would call it, the tooling for modern software development. The next big piece, and this was recognized by Alex Lair, our CTO, was, hey, we haven't really put out a cookbook. We haven't really said, whether you're an internal software developer or you're one of our industry partners, this is how we want the muffins baked. So he put out a piece called the NGA Software Way last year as an RFI, and we got 350 pages of feedback from you. And it was amazing. We're processing that. and we're about to publish that probably in the next few months. It really focuses on two things. You know, how we want our software development before you write, through the development, through the first deliverable, and then operationally through the iterations. And then it says we're going to need some common metrics from you. This doesn't sound like much, but it's a big deal, and these will be the two big drivers this year. And I'm very proud of the fact that we've tried really hard to reach out with the industry to get your knowledge and insight and thoughts, because we know we don't have it all right, and we'll be publishing those later this year.
Great. Well, Mark, I want to thank you for being our guest this morning, and we're out of time, but I wanted to turn it back over to you. Do you have any closing thoughts for us today?
No, I'll just end with a thank you. You know, I really do. We at NGA really do value the relationship and the ability to connect with and have these dialogues with industry. And so, you know, Leidos and INSA, thank you for facilitating this. And over to you, John. If you get follow-on questions from people that they can't get through the NGA.mil and our industry engagement team, please just shoot those to me, and I'll be sure to connect those people with the right subject matter experts.
Well, thank you for that offer, Mark. We certainly will do that. So anyone in the audience, feel free to reach out to INSA, and we can connect you with Mark and his team at NGA. And with that, I want to go ahead and again, thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for all of your thoughts and insights. And also, again, thank you to Leidos for supporting today's program. To all of you online, thanks for taking time this morning to join us. And when the webinar ends in a few moments, there'll be a short survey that pops up. Please take a second and complete it and let us know how we did. Looking ahead, we do have a few more things in store for you. On February the 1st, we'll host Mr. Niels Ziering, who's the Technical Director at NSA's Cybersecurity Directorate. Will be with us for a coffee and conversation. And on February the 2nd, we'll host a virtual leadership luncheon with NGA Director Vice Admiral Sharp. Later in February, on the 16th, we will hold our next in-person event, which will be our 2022 INSA Achievement Awards. And that'll be over at the Renaissance Arlington Capitol View in Crystal City. The keynote speaker there will be DIA Director Scott Barrier, and he'll deliver remarks at this very festive event where we celebrate the accomplishments of 6 outstanding early to mid-career IC and national security professionals. You can learn about this at our website and about all of our programs at insaonline.org. This concludes this morning's program. Hope you all have a great day. Thanks.